Good afternoon. This is Pam with Follow Your Brush. Welcome if this is your first time. Hopefully you'll continue to like and subscribe and join along. I'm a watercolor adventurist, but today I'm going to take you on a little bit of a story about a watercolor adventurist that far exceeds my expectations or anything that I have ever done. And I'm going to tell you a story and show you this little girl right here. This little girl is at age 3, and her name is Anong, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Beam. Anong Migeams Beam. Here she is as well as a little child. Her earliest memories are encountering color with both of her parents as practicing artists and making their own paints, pigments, and colors. And they traveled all around the United States and Canada. That's where she's located now. And I love this particular story. You can go to Beam Paints. That's what we're going to talk about here and show you in a minute. But I love this story to start with, to introduce you to this lovely lady. She said, at 3 years old, I remember standing on a back paved driveway with my mother, standing adult tall above me. We were both looking up into a canopy of spring green maple leaves and the sun gleaming through them. I asked, "What color is that?" She said, "Chartreuse." I stood feeling full of the gleaming gold color, smelling the spring green scent of evaporating rain from pavement and leaves. I wanted to know the color, and there, sitting at the base of the tree, I ate the sprouts of the budding spring maple and knew the taste of green. I love that story, and I wanted to begin with that story to introduce you to her line of paints that is handmade. Beam Paints. Got it right here, and this is kind of messy, but I've got this glued down in this tin, so I can't show you, but it's they're all, not only are they handmade, and she searches out the pigments and creates all the pigments herself, but they're also stay true to the indigenous people in Canada, where she grew up and where she lives now. And all the paints have an Indian name, the indigenous people, the name of the people, as well as an English name. And this one is, well, I can't read the indigenous name, but it's the Great Ocean. So they all have names that talk about the land. This is pine, but they also have the indigenous names that tell and identify the paints as well. I was introduced to Beam Paints by a member of my watercolor group, Follow Your Brush, and was encouraged to try them, and so I did. And I haven't used them for a while, but today I wanted to play, and as the more I played, I thought I need to just go ahead and record this, because sometimes these play moments are when you discover things, and you can't really tell about your paints until you do play. That's just part of how it works. So not only are we going to play with these handmade paints, but I'm going to use my handmade brush from Tracy Levinson. And I'm going to start down in this corner here just to get started. I was thinking holidays and trees, and I don't know. I was just thinking, not really looking at a reference photo, just thinking holidays. And one reason I wanted to use these colors, I'm not covering every little spot, as you can see. Hopefully you can see that. If it's shiny, then it's wet. See the shine on there? That's where the water is. This is one of my favorite ways to paint, actually, is to put the water in first and then drip in my colors. Now, I'm not really going to create anything in particular, okay? We are just going to play with these paints and see what they want to do. One of the reasons I wanted to play with them is they have beautiful sparkle. They actually, they get their, in their pigments, this one is called, this is a sample, it's a very generous sample, Orca. But you can see the shine maybe in the paint already. I'm going to drip some of that in here and just see what it wants to do. Just kind of come in here. I read that they get their mica actually from Georgia, which I thought was interesting. If you're familiar with mica, it's a very, I used to play with that when I was a little girl. We could dig it up in the backyard. We loved digging up mica because it was shiny and it was flaky, and you could just kind of flake it on your hands, and it's just really fun. So like I say, this is just a spontaneous, fun painting. And the reason I have this paper taped off is because what I was doing before is I got going, and then I had another idea, and so I wanted to come back to that on another piece, and then another piece. So this time I just went ahead and taped off a couple sections so we can let this dry and see what it wants to do. What it wants to do, because when you play with watercolor, you really kind of have to be of the mindset that you're going to let watercolor do what it wants to do. And if you're not of that mindset, you will discover very quickly that it will do what it wants to do, whether you like it or not. So I'm going to let this one dry. And I'm actually going to turn this over. You can see the sparkle in there and the mica in that color. Isn't that pretty? Hopefully you can see the sparkle. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to go to this side and let this dry a little bit. This time what I want to do, this is what I was playing with a minute ago. This time I'm going to spritz. Oops, got some on that one, but that's not going to matter. And I'm just going to lay down a color here, one of these colors, and see how it plays. I love wet on wet. One of the reasons I like wet on wet is you get soft, what we call soft edges. If you're already familiar with painting, you know that there's a difference between soft edges and hard edges. The soft edges, as you will see here in a moment, the color will spread and whoosh and move around like it did here with the Orca. And this time I want to go into this deep pine because I'm thinking about trees a little bit. I kind of splatter this pine on here. And actually, you know what I need to do? Well, I'll do that in a second. It doesn't really matter. Thinking about trees and tree limbs and pine. I wonder why. Maybe because it's Christmas. I'm going to drip these in here and just let them kind of make a tree for us. Not really touching the brush to the paper. Just letting it run. There are a variety of different ways to splatter your paint. One of my favorite ways, of course, involves me getting it all over myself and anything else that might be in the way. That's just part of it. Many people do it different ways. This is just what works for me in my hands. So we're going to get a little darker here. Some of these areas are not wet. Some is. So that's going to be actually the base of my little pine tree. Then what I want to do, we still have some moisture in here. There is another color that I really, really like. in this collection. Look at the shine, look at the shimmer in this. You see the mica coming out in that? Look at that. There's another color I want to play with here, and that is this robin's egg blue. And I'm just going to drip this in different spots. And just kind of let that play too with the green. Could be snow, it could be sky, it could be just about anything you want it to be. Sound like Bob Ross. Just make it a happy little tree. That's not my intention, but it should be a Bob Ross by any means. But what I am saying is you can just feel free to experiment. You don't always have to have a plan. Now see, as I'm going, I'm just kind of following, I don't know what I want to do. I like that robin's egg. So now I'm going to kind of come in here and make some tree shapes, more with the robin's egg blue than the green. The green was just kind of a background there. But at the time, that wasn't really what I was thinking, but we'll go with it. Just kind of let your painting talk to you and see what it wants to do. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and let's go on to our third little piece of the puzzle right here. And I'm just going to let this dry, and we'll probably come back to it in a minute. Now let's play with, I'm not going to wet this first. Let me come in here with my pine and just see. I think I want to actually do this in this direction. I might even use a different brush. Maybe not, I don't know. This is my brush from Tracy Levinson. Handmade brush. Figured the handmade brush and the handmade paint would go well together, right? Appreciate Tracy and his brushes. I love his brushes. So that's a pretty tree. The beginning there, I got a little hair. It's probably a cat hair because in my house the cats kind of rule the roost. Okay, so now you can see there is a difference because it's now wetter than it was when I first started, but this is the wet on dry. So it's going to dry with harder lines. See how this is just all, there's so much water on this, probably too much. I probably put too much, and the paint is just absorbing straight into this paper. It's 100% cotton arched paper. This one, the glitter's showing up beautifully, and then when I'm going to go back over that in a second. But this one is wet on dry, so you have the hard, what we call the hard edges. It's not running and moving around. Let me come back in here with this robin's egg though color. That's the name of the color. And I'm just going to kind of blend some of this so my tree has something to sit on. I have been thinking about in our group on Follow Your Brush on Facebook. If you don't follow us there, come and follow us over there. We have I'm just short of 900 members on my Facebook group called Follow Your Brush, and we have a great time over there. We literally have painters, watercolor painters, oil painters, literally from span the globe. We have people from Australia to the Arctic, from the UK to South Africa. We have members literally all over the world. Okay, I'm liking this. I don't want to get too messed up in my tree, but I am going to come in with some of this robin's egg. And maybe we can get a little bit of a snowfall here. Just suggest that. I always seem to kind of paint with a light touch, and I think that's because I've had so much work done on my hands as far as surgery and so forth. So I always just kind of, it's hard to even explain, but it's just barely, I call it a whisper touch. Just barely touch the page. But like to drop that paint in and just let it be. Get a little bit here with the tip. So I'm liking that. And let's come down here. We don't know where the shadow is coming from because I did not determine that when I first started the painting. Where the light's coming from, but I'm just going to put some down in here. Now, while this dries, let's go back to my glitter. I don't want to make this too long, but I just want to give you some examples. This is totally dry now, but because I have that glitter base, I want to come back in and kind of decorate my tree. We also have a gold glitter. And I want to come in here. Now, it's not wanting to sit on there. Let me see, there needs more. There we go. Let me get it into the places. It doesn't want to sit on top of the other mica. That's interesting. So let me go in these spots that are still white. And add some of this gold glitter to my tree. It's always good to leave some white areas anyway in your painting. And these areas are going to lend to making a really pretty tree, I think. So if you're interested in these paints, they are definitely handmade. All natural pigments. And they use the materials there from their area in Canada where they live. And they also make paintbrushes now and paper. And everything comes beautifully packaged. This particular round piece here is on a piece of wood. They try to keep everything as natural as possible, just because that's who they are. That's how they want to be represented, and it's part of who they are. And the little paint, these are equal to about a half pan of paint if you were to purchase a half pan. And they are highly pigmented. And as you can see, they go down beautifully. I'm going to put some more of this mica down here or this orca color. Going to give some shadow under my tree. They're highly pigmented. They just go on beautifully. They dry beautifully. And if you want to support something that is a company that is concerned about the environment, a company that stays true to their values, and heritage. This is a wonderful company. I'm just going to sprinkle some of this on. Might be a little snow coming down. Sprinkle some of this over here. But I want to introduce you to Beam paints. So it's not always about the high income, well-known paint brands. The A Gallo paints that I did the video on last time, those are also handmade. They have become a bigger company now, and they just introduced a collection of their first two paints, but they still have the handmade process and staff that does that, and individually pour the pans as well as the tubes now. So that's another handmade company that's from out of Italy. But Beam paints are just beautiful, and I wanted to introduce you to them today. And I'm liking this little tree right here. I think that's my favorite. This one, it's still puffy and it's still cool to the touch, and that means it's still too damp to come back in. So I'll come back in and play with that one. Gonna let this dry because I like it just the way it is. This one is still cool too. I am gonna try to come back in here though with just a little bit. With the very, very tip of my brush. That's another reason I like Tracy's brushes, is the tip is just fabulous. So this one, I like this one too. So there you go, Beam paints. You can look them up, Beam paints. I just Google Beam paints and it will bring you to their website. You can order directly from them. I don't know if you still have time for Christmas. I don't know what their deadline is. But they're great paints in these sets. You can buy the individual, they call them paint stones. Or you can buy these sets, like in this wooden block, or it's actually from a tree there from the area. That's pretty too. I'm liking that one. Come back in with my robin's egg and just kind of add some little snow or something down here. I might trim this actually when I crop it a little bit or something, but I like that as well. And so there you go, Beam paints, B-E-A-M, handmade paints out of Canada and Indigenous people, and the proceeds go back to this family and the community. And they also have programs where they reach out to other Indigenous peoples across the world and help support them, and also children's programs providing paints for schools where they might not have paints in areas in the in the Arctic and the northern Canada, where supplies might be limited. So it's a wonderful company, and I love the story and love the paints. So I hope you give them a try, and thank you for joining me and following my brush, and I hope you follow yours as well. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. I'm not monetized. I just do this for my own fun and hopefully your enjoyment. Thanks for watching, and come again. See you next time. Bye.